nature, stunning women, the world's best coffee beans, pristine beaches, lush rainforests, and an incredibly affordable paradise. That's Costa Rica for you. Many of you may have heard the name, but might need a clearer idea of what it's all about. While it's often known as a tourism destination, the country generates around 55% of its income from agriculture. The essential products in this sector are coffee, sugar, bananas, and cocoa. In fact, Costa Rica is the leading exporter of these products in Central America. This country is located in Central America, nestled between Nicaragua and Panama. If you look at a map, you'll see it's in a narrow area. You might hear about Nicaragua for the first time, and that's another country in this region. To the north, Costa Rica faces the Caribbean Sea, and to the south, it's the Pacific Ocean. Visitors to this country usually land at Juan Santamaria International Airport in the capital, San Jose. In a neighboring country, you can also reach Costa Rica by bus from Honduras, El Salvador, and Mexico. Thanks to the tropical climate, Costa Rica enjoys beautiful weather year-round, with an average temperature of about 25 degrees Celsius. If you want to visit during the drier months, aim for December through April. In the country, Spanish is the official language. Just as in many South American countries, the Spaniards once ruled here. For example, when Christopher Columbus landed on the Caribbean shores in 1502, he named this place Rich Coast because of the gold deposits they believed to be here. However, the Spaniards were disappointed in this regard. Contrary to expectations, they didn't find large amounts of gold in this country. Instead, they realized that the country's underground resources were extremely poor. The current indigenous population of the country were people who had migrated from places like Guatemala in those times, making a living through farming and hunting. Later, the locals who ventured into the mountain slopes discovered that these lands were ideal for growing coffee. It took until 1821 for Costa Rica to gain independence and break free from Spanish rule. Thus, about 300 years of Spanish domination came to an end. Today, Costa Rica consistently ranks among the world's happiest countries in life satisfaction indices. While many countries in Central and South America face economic-related unhappiness, Costa Rica always manages to place itself among the top 15 happiest countries in the world. The country covers an area of 51,000 square kilometers and is home to a registered population of only 5 million. Approximately 90% of these people are of mestizos and mulattoes descent, with the remaining percentage being descendants of African heritage and other local tribal peoples. Today in Costa Rica, only 4 tribes remain that preserve their identity, language, and culture. The rest of the population leads a life in line with the requirements of the modern age. Moreover, activities such as gambling and prostitution are entirely legal in the country, and the government doesn't intervene in these matters. Of course, we don't attribute their happiness solely to these 2 criteria, but the conditions of prostitution and gambling attract millions of wealthy tourists to the country. Mainly, people from the United States flock to countries like Costa Rica and Colombia. Gambling companies have also opened many establishments in the country for this sector. To take it a step further, Costa Rica is the only country in the world that legally allows driving under the influence. If you leave a bar intoxicated and get into your car in this country, traffic police won't fine you or take your driver's license. In fact, until 2012, road signs weren't even used in the country. Traffic rules started to develop after 2012. You might think that such freedoms require a significant military force in the country. However, Costa Rica is one of the 23 countries worldwide without an army. Yes, indeed, there has been no military force in this country since 1948. So you might wonder how they ensure their national security. This is where the United States comes in. The external security of Costa Rica is entirely under the control of the United States. Consequently, it's not easy for anyone to interfere with this country. Given the size of the United States, I believe there's no need to explain further how significant a power they are. Furthermore, Costa Rica is undoubtedly one of the safest and most livable countries among the Latin American nations, not only in terms of external security but also within the country. Today in Costa Rica, education is entirely free, and they lead Latin American countries in literacy rates. People can also get medicines for free from pharmacies. Approximately 98% of the country's electricity comes from renewable energy sources thanks to a well-developed hydroelectric system, geothermal sources, windmills, and solar panels. Because Costa Rica is a true natural paradise, the water flowing from its rivers is entirely drinkable and healthy. In rural areas especially, people never pay for bottled water and fulfill their water needs from nature. Also, if you visit a public restroom in a mall-like complex there, you'll notice that urinals don't have automatic flush systems. In the name of water conservation, Costa Ricans have opted not to use automated flush systems in urinals. You can visit Costa Rica without a visa for tourism from nearly every country if you want to see situations like this in person. In fact, Canadian, European, and American middle-aged and older individuals primarily start a second life in this country. For instance, if a financially comfortable person in their mature years has to choose between Sweden and Costa Rica, they are more likely to choose Costa Rica. This is because countries like Sweden, part of the Scandinavian region, have many months without sunshine, short daylight hours, and cold weather most of the time. The taste of fruits and vegetables is not as flavorful due to the cold climate, and dealing with various paperwork and complex administrative procedures is necessary for social services. All of this can be pretty taxing and time-consuming. In Costa Rica, you'll enjoy a warm climate throughout the year, sunny weather, and pristine azure beaches. The crime rates are low, and various fruits and vegetables grow naturally and taste their best here. Even if the global system were to collapse, this country would be among the last to experience scarcity and hunger, because whatever you plant in the soil here yields bountiful harvests. You can survive for a long time with just coconuts here. Moreover, you can invest in the country, buy land, and build your dream mansion in the lush landscapes. You can send your child to school for free and benefit from medications without worrying about health insurance. That's why Costa Rica is more livable than many developed European countries. Of course, like any country, you can also have negative impressions here. For instance, when walking on the capital streets, you might encounter unpleasant odors or garbage scattered on the streets. Unfortunately, local people who can't find restrooms when they're in a bind might relieve themselves in the streets, which contributes to these unpleasant odors. During your first visit, you might be pretty surprised or even shocked. Additionally, there are no free social housing or free travel opportunities like in some countries. If you don't feel like working there, the government won't assist you. From this perspective, countries like Sweden with a strong welfare state are far ahead of Costa Rica, and there are technically no impoverished people. Salaries in Costa Rica are around $700 per month. The minimum wage in the country is roughly $600 per month. Costa Rica is the Latin American country with the highest minimum wage and purchasing power. People here earn higher minimum wages, not only compared to other Latin American countries, but even to some European and Balkan countries. In Costa Rica, when you look at people's faces, whether in rural or urban areas, they seem to carry a carefree expression. They appear content with the life they have and radiate happiness. Meeting them in person, almost all of them greet you with a smiling face. Besides, there's a significant number of elderly people in the rural areas because in this country, people claim they can live comfortably up to the age of 90. Meals generally consist of foods like squash, corn, and beans, which they naturally grow. Costa Ricans share a common life philosophy called Pura Vida. The equivalent of Pura Vida mostly means living a relaxed life, going with the flow, not forcing life, and finding joy in simple things. This is why they have adopted a positive mindset, leaving stress and tension behind. For example, while driving, no one honks at the car in front, even if it waits for a long time. Nobody is in a hurry. They take life slowly, show kindness to each other, and stay patient. Furthermore, Costa Ricans are more warm and friendly than people in developed countries. When facing an issue here, people come together to tackle it, and they can be helpful and genuinely friendly even to strangers. For instance, someone on the street might greet you with a smile for no reason. In contrast, in developed modern countries, people often focus on themselves. One of the fundamental values in Costa Rica is the concept of family. People live their lives with their extended families. The local population wakes up at 5:30 in the morning, and they usually go to bed around 9 at night. They are pretty consistent in their daily routines. In other words, they wake up early and go to bed early. This is why, especially in less populated areas, the nights are entirely silent and people retreat to their homes. Of course, this doesn't mean that the country lacks nightlife. If you want to enjoy yourself during the day and at night, and even meet new people, Costa Rica won't disappoint you. At night, there are thousands of people partying, coming from all over the world to have fun and meet new people. They are mostly warm and open-minded. If you care for yourself, you can find the entertainment you desire here with a reasonable budget. Additionally, Costa Rica, along with Colombia, is one of the Latin American countries where women are the sexiest. On the other hand, if you travel from the central cities to the countryside in Costa Rica, you'll see many cyclists. Here, bicycle usage is prevalent, and the public prefers cycling over motorized vehicles. This is a sporty choice and a way to avoid spending money on fuel. Even though their national leagues may not be prominent worldwide, Costa Ricans love playing and watching football just as much. Not only are there football fields in every city, but also in almost every village. In a typical Costa Rican village structure, there are three essential elements: the church, the school, and the football field. Interestingly, Costa Rica has no addressing system. For instance, the house you live in won't have a street name or a door number. So how can you tell where you are? People describe house or shop addresses based on a reference point. For example, across from the school, next to the cemetery, behind the church, and so on. Since the country and the cities are small, people have no trouble specifying addresses using reference points. Moreover, if you observe Costa Rica from above, you'll notice something. You won't see many high-rise concrete buildings. Structures are generally single-story or two-story detached buildings. Some even refer to Costa Rica as a single-story country. In other words, Costa Rica, with its 51,000 square kilometers, is essentially a vast rural area. In the country, there's another unique advantage for those who work online and earn money through the internet. If you can get a residency permit in Costa Rica and move there, you don't have to pay taxes related to your work when you open a bank account in the country. For example, even if you withdraw your money from a Costa Rican bank, you won't be considered a tax resident in Costa Rica if your tax records are in another country. There are very few countries worldwide that offer this privilege. Typically, wherever you have a bank account, tax authorities request that you become a taxpayer in that country for the income you deposit into that bank. Costa Rica doesn't impose this requirement. However, it's important to note that around 15% of the registered population in Costa Rica is unemployed. This is a relatively high percentage for a country. So if you plan to move to Costa Rica and look for work, be aware that companies usually prioritize their citizens. Finally, it's worth mentioning that the monthly rent for a two-bedroom apartment in the central areas of the capital is around $700. If you're willing to increase your budget, you can rent luxurious homes with gardens by the beach for $1,500 a month. That's a brief overview of Costa Rica.